what's your 5-year plan from now, going from 35 to 40?
Man, that's a big question. I wish I could answer it honestly, but I can't. You know, with the whole Breonna Taylor situation, I believe that was an awakening for the world. I've always struggled with what exactly I wanted to do, because there is a lot of things I can do, and I'm aware that I can accomplish anything I put my mind to. But as of right now, my focus has just been on helping my people, standing up to racism, busting the pipes of corruption, and exposing some of the corruption that takes place not only in Louisville but throughout this world. So my focus now and what I'm locked in on is tearing down the walls of racism and busting the pipes of corruption. I know that me personally, I can't end racism, but what I can do is I can tear down the perimeter of racism that they got us living in, because I feel like we're all living in racism's perimeter. I can bust the pipes of corruption and expose, you know, how racist people have their power because of corruption and stuff like that. So right now, that's my focus. I don't know how long I'll be locked in with this. I don't know if it's me from here on out. But right now, that's my focus, and I'm not thinking about anything other than those two things right there.
So as far as that, we're looking for change, but it seems like each decade is still fighting the same thing, but a different systematic name, or it has a different systematic face. What is real true change to you?
To me, I think the change needs to start with the people. I think personally, the people, we put too much on our politicians. Now, the politicians, they come off like they want all that responsibility, but I think where change is going to come in, be effective in this country, is when the people, we start standing up and saying we want a role in some of the change. We want to be a pillar that makes some of the change in the community, and then spreading out throughout the world. Because unfortunately, we rely on, you know, politicians and government to fix some of the problems that's in the hood, in the communities, when we can make those changes ourselves. So I think the main thing when it comes to change, we have to stop depending on government and politicians so much to create and make these changes. We have to realize a lot of these things that we want change, we can collectively come together and make these changes. If we come together and if we really you know, pay attention to what's going on, this stuff doesn't take a president, it doesn't take a mayor, it doesn't take a governor. A lot of this stuff can be changed with a community. So if we come together as a community, which I feel like not just black people, but white communities too, we're no longer communities. I mean, I lived in, you know, a nice part of Louisville where you would think, you know, there are communities out there, but unfortunately, communities are not what they used to be. You just got a lot of people with money who own individual pieces of properties and houses, but they don't act and move as communities. We got to get back to what built this country and the foundation of this country, which was community, which was people working together. And I feel like personally, rich and poor, we no longer work together anymore.
Okay, so that's a great segue to my next question. African American man and woman and child collectively owns half of 1% of America's wealth. Now, that is dramatically low. You own half of 1% of America's wealth, and that hasn't really changed since slavery. Right. Matter of fact, there are times in the past where we owned more than that. But at the same time, the black American man, woman, and child have over $3 trillion spending power. What are some self-reflections that the black race have to do looking into the mirror, as far as not relying on anybody else, but relying on ourselves and our own communities to make a change and get that initial push?
Well, I mean, I think it's easy for us to point out numbers and statistics like you just did. But more importantly, I think what we got to point out is what is our mentality. You can point out the fact that it's less than 1%, but at the same time, how many of us are seeking to own more? See, that's the thing. Like, what is the mentality? What are the principles of the black man and woman? To me, I feel like, you know, we can take a statistic like the NBA, which, you know, you're a basketball player, ex-basketball pro player, you know about these things. You take the statistic of NBA players that are black, and it's going to be a very large percentage. Probably 90% of the NBA players are black. if not more. When you take percentage of black rappers, it's going to be probably like 95%, you know what I mean, or more. That's because we want to dominate rapping. We want to dominate the NBA. Does the black man and woman want to dominate wealth? Does the black man and woman want to own property here in the United States? We can't just point out what are the percentages. We got to point out what is the mentality. And to me personally, I feel like we don't have the mentality of ownership. We don't want to own things. So therefore, if we don't want to own things, nobody's going to give it to us. I mean, so we have to shift the basic morals and principles so we can drive that statistic up, because it's an embarrassing statistic. It really is. But at the same time, it's a reality, and it's exactly what the statistic's going to be when you are a group of people who don't want to own nothing.
What can you say to the people who don't know you, have a misconception of you, your chance of, like, just with everything politically and everything off the table, who are you at heart?
I'm simply a guy that's trying to change the morals and the principle and the mentality of the black culture. I'm a person that grew up in both sides. You know, my first 10 years of my life, I lived in the projects. The next, 25 years, I'm 35 years old now. The next 25 years, I live in a nice part of town, with around white people that had a lot of money. But I never forgot where I came from. And I wanted to some way try to find common ground between where I came from and where I'm at now in life. I don't want to just be a black person that made it and then, never look back and never extend a hand to my people. I want to see my neighbors make it. I want to see my uncles, my brothers, and people outside my family make it, even strangers. Like when I ride by, down in 2nd and Broadway, I see all those homeless people. I would love to come by one day and see that they made it. They're not there no more. That's the type of person I am. I had a situation that took place that really humbled me and really woke me up. I was involved in some things I shouldn't have been involved in between that 19 and 21 area as far as life. And I had some guys, they put something in my drink intentionally. They put something in my drink, and this situation landed me in Central State. Doctors was of the belief that I wouldn't bounce back and I would be like that for life. Thank God, through the help of my grandmother, friends, and family around me, I was able to condition myself back into a normal person. Upon becoming a normal person, back around like 22, 23 is when my senses and stuff started coming back. I started functioning on my own again. I began to do everything that I had did at 18 all over again. Basic, getting a job, taking baby steps, and then before you know it, I became a barber again, and then I just built from there. And by the time 25 hit, I knew exactly what I wanted to do in life, how I was going to do it, and I stuck to it. And now that I'm 35, I'm seeing everything that I put all my time and effort into pay off. At the age of 35, even though that's a young age. Not to boast or brag, but I feel like I've accomplished, everything that I had set out to accomplish as a young man. Now, as an adult, I've created new things I want to accomplish, but where I'm at right now at 35 is exactly where I wanted to be. Exactly where I want to be, and a little bit more. I'm a homeowner, business owner. I got opportunities to do other things, and I couldn't ask for a better position than what I'm in right now.
Okay. Your main connection to being involved in the Breonna Taylor case initially was your relationship with Brett Hankinson and the past that you two have had in the run-ins together.
Right.
All right, so would you mind, like, before even the Brett Hankinson, because you, from what I'm hearing, you went and put in the complaints about him.
Right.
You've been trying to tell people about this gentleman, not just your complaints, many other people's complaints, but they fell on deaf ears. So tell me your initial first experience with Brett Hankinson.
My first experience with him off the record was, I was walking down the sidewalk, leaving a bar in St. Matthews with a girl. And he gave this girl that I was walking with a very dirty look. So, once, we got out of his, his perimeter as far as he can hear us talking, I asked the girl, did you see that cop? Why'd he look at you like that? And she goes to tell me the story that, her and him, had a thing, and he's trying to, pretty much make her his girl and all that good stuff. And that was my first experience with him. You know, I didn't know who he was or any of that then. He looked at her and I mentioned her and she tells me about who he is and such, and I'm like, oh, okay. So it made me a little nervous because I'm like, damn, you know, it's my spot, it's where I party at. He up here patrolling. He's probably gonna stick it to me every time he sees me because of her. But I really didn't think too much into it, but that did cross my mind. Well, I'll be damned, that's exactly what he started to do. My next experience came when I was in a bar called Tin Roof. I got into a fight with a guy who was bullying people. He was in there starting fights with the security guards that worked there. He was starting fights with just other civilians that was in there trying to enjoy the night. This big military dude was going around starting stuff. Well, when he got to me, you know, he started stuff with the wrong person. So I pretty much got the best of him. Brett Hankinson was not in there during that fight, but he got news of the fight, and then he came to the bar, and then when he came into the bar, you know, after the fight took place, 10-15 minutes after the fight took place, he started threatening me and, you know, threatening to lock me up. But of course the bouncers and stuff and security that was in there, because the guy was trying to start fights with them too, had told Hankinson, no, this guy was defending himself. That guy who was on the ground messed up is the guy who was starting stuff. So of course Brett Hankinson couldn't lock me up that night because I had witnesses. But what he did is he waited until Saturday night, because this event took place on a Friday night. So he waited till Saturday night when all the witnesses was gone, and I was at a different club across the street, which was Molly Malone's. He comes over there and arrests me for something that took place on Friday. So, you know, that was the first two incidents I had with him. Then of course the next few incidents was the one that y'all aware of that was on the news, where he had planted the drugs on me on 2 separate occasions, which was caught on camera by my girlfriend in his body camera.
So explain, just give us detail by detail from the instance that had happened and what was going on before, what happened afterwards, and how did he go about planting these drugs? How many were it just him? Just give us your experience about it.
Well, the first time I believe it took place in 2018, 2016 was the timestamp of the stories that I was telling y'all. The first set of stories, 2016. There was a break, there was a dead period where he didn't mess with me. And then he started picking back up messing with me, which was in 2018. In 2018, I was leaving a club by the name of Sullivan's. When I was leaving this club, I was walking through, which is the sidewalk area, which is the gap between Sullivan's and Tin Roof. Now this officer, Brett Hankinson, he patrols both clubs. So he's sitting in the parking lot, which sits in between the clubs. The sidewalk is here, the parking lot's there, and club here and club there. So I'm walking on the sidewalk, and of course, you know, I gotta walk by him, which I normally have no issues walking by him. I even speak to him when I see him, you know, hey, how you doing? You know, just to ease the tension or whatever. So of course I'm walking by, Brett Hankinson sees me, you know, I kind of gave him the nod, spoke to him. Once I got several feet away from him, he then calls my name and tells me to come here. I turns around with my hands up like, you know what you want, what I do this time? So when I comes over there, he does something with his dog, where he has a police dog with him. He yanks on his dog, and upon yanking on this dog, the dog starts to, you know, do whatever Brett's trying to get him to do. Well, the dog starts sniffing and doing all this stuff, and Brett's like, what do you got on you? I'm like, you know, first I'm a little nervous because it's a dog and he's by my private area and pocket and everything. I'm like, I got money on me, but what the hell is this dog doing? So I'm a little nervous, trying to, you know, shoot a dog off me, but at the same time listen to him, but make sure this dog don't bite me. So upon this situation going down, Brett begins to ask me what's in my pocket. I'm like, bro, I ain't got nothing on me, just a bunch of money. And so, you know, he does what the police does. He starts roughing me up, grabs me, and then before you know it, there's money all over the ground, and they got me in handcuffs, and he's claiming that he did all this because his dog hinted that there was drugs, but he never found any drugs on me. So, you know, 2-3 minutes into this situation, after me being in handcuffs, them not being able to find any drugs in my pocket or any drugs where the money is that I just dropped, he's kind of congregating with these police officers trying to fix their story. So another cop walks down the street several feet away from where I was at, and then he picks up something off the ground, and then they try to say, oh, I threw that. Well, they had body cameras on. They body camera ended up catching them and proving that I didn't throw nothing, that those drugs was actually dropped there by what I would say the police dropped it there, but they're gonna allege that somebody else did it, but it wasn't me, because I'm in handcuffs. They hadn't found no drugs on me, And at the same time, they body camera while I'm in handcuffs is showing the piece of sidewalk that the drugs is found on, and there's no drugs right there. And all of a sudden, they walk over there and there's drugs there. Well, how did the drugs get there? I'm in handcuffs. Your body camera shows that sidewalk. There's no drugs there, and I'm already in handcuffs. And you already searched me. Just magically appears when you walk over there. So that's what happened with that situation, the first situation as far as playing drugs. The second situation, I was actually leaving Sullivan's, walking out the door instead of being on the sidewalk. I was walking out the door. As soon as I got out the door, Brett comes up to me. He says, "What are you doing in here?" I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I doing in here?" He's like, "You're banned in here. You're trespassing." I'm like, "I'm not trespassing. I've never been banned from here. What are you talking about?" Then he grabs me up, but I had already warned my friends before I left the club because I seen him out there. I said, "Everybody get your cameras ready. This cop, he's gonna try playing drugs on me." So my friends was recording, my girlfriend was recording, and I believe Hankerson had a body camera on too at the time. Well, he didn't realize that my girl had her phone down low and she was recording. He takes me over behind the van, which he thought he was gonna be exempt from being recorded. Well, he turns me around to where, you know, my back is towards my girl's camera. So now my back is facing my girl's camera. He goes into my inside pocket and he pulls these drugs out. When he pulls these drugs out, he dangles them in front of the camera and everybody. He says, "Put this on Facebook, put this on social media, put this on IG Live." And he's like, you know, pretty much bragging that he found these drugs on me. I'm pissed off. I'm steaming. But at the same time, something told me it's gonna be all right. You know, I knew I had told my friends to record. I knew we was all spread it out. I knew we had it from different angles. So something was like, just be relaxed and be okay. Just calm down, because I was pissed. So I was trying to calm down, and you know, I got arrested that night. I got charged with a bunch of crap that I didn't do. First of all, he charged me with trespassing. I wasn't trespassing. I've never been banned from the club. Then he charged me with trafficking cocaine. And before you know it, I was sitting in jail. I was pissed off. But fortunately, Brett Hankerson became aware of this footage that my friends and my girlfriend had, and he dropped every single charge. And it didn't make it into a courtroom because he didn't want this camera footage to come out. So that was the last incident. Did you have
any cases against him that made to the courtroom and that was overruled through court, or was it all pre?
Well, this one made it to the courtroom but never made it to trial. I had the case before that where he planted drugs on me just got thrown out a month ago.
Why? What was the judge's stance on that?
Well, it was all corruption, first of all. It never should have made it to a grand jury. The way it got to a grand jury was all corruption. Brett Hankerson was a very powerful cop here in Louisville, Kentucky. He got a direct order for this to go to a grand jury with no evidence. Possession is 9/10 of the law. This stuff was found on the concrete, and you're trying me with the grand jury trial for something you found on the concrete. So what happened is, with Brett Hankerson doing what he did with the Breonna Taylor situation, the media is now involved. Everybody's paying attention to who is Brett Hankerson, and they're looking into him. So when they're looking into this guy, they see this case. So of course the judge wants no parts of this case no more. The prosecutor don't want to stand by Brett Hankerson no more. So what did they do? They dismissed the case.
How was your connection with Sam Aguilar? How did that come about?
That's a tricky question. I have a federal lawsuit pending right now against Brett Hankerson. Of course, Sam Aguilar is one of the best civil suit attorneys here locally in Louisville, Kentucky, as far as you know, civil cases. With mine being a federal lawsuit, it makes that a civil case. So me and Sam end up becoming somewhat a friend. Before you know it, I started talking to Sam and asking Sam if he was interested in taking my case. Initially, he came off like he wasn't interested in taking it because his hands was full with the whole Breonna thing. But I think he realized I did have a lawsuit against him, and I think he realized that I needed to get on this guy's good side, meaning myself. So he took my case. When Sam took my case, we had a meeting, and I came in and I showed him all my evidence and stuff that I had put together myself. Sam, when looking at my evidence, he straight up said to me, he was like, "Dude, you're a lawyer. Like, the way you've put this stuff together is really, really good." So upon him looking at my stuff, he then put some paperwork and stuff in front of me and asked me what I thought about certain things. Well, come to find out, you know, it was Breonna Taylor stuff, and he was asking me, you know, what I think about this. How did this happen? what do I think about that? And showing me certain evidence. And I began to start solving things right there in front of him. And he was like, how would you like to work on this case with me? And I'm like, shit, I would love to. Not knowing that I was going to be making any money doing this. Before you know it, I think it was 3 to 4 days later, he presented a $1,500 check that was in the envelope. I poured it out. I'm like, what is this? He said, this is for your last 10 hours of work. Over the next 2 months, he paid me $18,500 to work the Breonna Taylor case with him.
So what is going through your mind? What do you think? Are you talking to people?
Believe it or not, I was locked in. I was thinking that, you know, because I told Brett Hankinson way before Breonna's situation, I told him that I was going to bring him down. So I was thinking, this is my opportunity, this is my moment to bring him down. Also, I was thinking justice for Breonna. Also, I was thinking, you know, make her mother happy, make her family happy. I had all of that on my mind, and I was locked in. I knew that her family was heartbroken. I knew the city was heartbroken. I knew the world was heartbroken. So all I can think about is bring him down, bring him down, bring him down. I'm going to bring him down. And I was locked in. There became a period of time where I started to figure that, okay, I think this is going opposite of what I was trying to do.
What part of the line of work where you said like it felt like it was breaking down, what was happening in the media during that time?
Well, to me, the timeline was right around when the settlement came. When the settlement came is when I realized, okay, something's very wrong with the situation, and I felt like I was being used. Now, I had to confirm it before I went public. So after the settlement, then came the decision as far as the trial. And once that decision came out, where Brett Hankinson only got wanton endangerment charges, then everything was confirmed that I had been used and that I had been lied to. And so that's when I began to take to the internet and use social media as my biggest instrument to expose corruption. Also the fact that Sam Aguilar, upon bringing me in, took me away from the protesters. See, before I was doing any of that work, I was actually leading the protests here in Louisville. I was down there hands-on, leading. I had led the biggest one that we had, the one that went from Jefferson Square to the Highlands. I had led that protest. So they knew I was a threat. I wasn't just down there leading, I was actually down there destroying Brett Hankinson's credibility by telling the same stories that I'm telling right now on camera and letting people know what type of guy this was. So I believe when I look back at the situation, I believe this was all a plan. This was all a plan to remove me from the protests, give me a little money, silence me until they made it through this civil suit, which was, we don't want to prove that he's a dirty cop and send him to jail. We actually want to have the evidence to prove that, but we actually want to use this evidence to get as much money as we can possibly get out of the city, and then spur him with just wanting endangerment charges, and everybody walks away happy.
For the demographic of people that might sit there and be like, well, there was a $12 million lawsuit. You know, everybody got divvied out. What if a person was to say, well, what if he just didn't get some of that money? He's just angry right now, so this is why he is doing that. What would you say to the people who would think that or say that after listening to this footage?
Well, if anybody keeps up with the story and they're interested in the story and they want to make it like I'm mad because I didn't get money, then I just urge them to pay attention to the phone conversation that I leaked between me and Sam Aguilar. The conversation tells you everything. I mean, Sam Aguilar was even on that phone basically saying, I'm on my way to your house. This is after the decision. He's basically saying, you're right, blah, 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 I'm on my way to your house. He was going to give me money. I told him, I don't want to meet with you. I don't want to meet with nobody. And I told him, I said, Sam, you sold out. Meaning I'm not about the money. It was never about the money. Sam Aguilar, what people don't understand, this information hasn't came out. He offered to take me anywhere I wanted to go in the world. Told me to pick any place I wanted to go to in the world. He offered to do a lot of things for me. But it wasn't about the money for me. It wasn't about the money for me at all. What it was about is I had a personal vendetta against Brett Hankinson because he personally tried to ruin my life. He tried to take away from my freedom. And on top of that, Breonna Taylor was a girl who was murdered. And I was brought in and seen the evidence that can prove that she was murdered. I have the type of heart to where I don't care if she was white, Asian, Mexican, whatever she was. If I know somebody's murdered, I'm going to stand up to that. So there's two reasons why I acted the way I did. I have a personal issue with Brett Hankinson. And on top of that, I was brought in and got to see the evidence and prove that she was murdered. That's it.